at that time. It's the way they executed a Roman citizen could not be crucified. But a nigger could. You said, turn. And so Brother Malcolm said, how foolish we must seem to our ancestors to be walking around, I'm not picking with you, but I want you to think about that, with crosses hanging from our necks, a symbol of assassination and execution. That's like hanging an electric chair around your neck in Canada. Or an image of the gas chamber. And African and the followers of Jesus were not doing that at first. That was something that Europeans developed later. Okay, I see now y'all getting disturbed with me. That was a revolutionary teaching, behold, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. I mean, that was challenging the government of Rome. And Rome didn't give him the permission to do that. Here's some of the things that he taught. Just going with the New Testament. In Luke, the 22nd chapter, and the 36th verse, he said, now is the time to sell your garment and buy a sword. Does it sound like a nonviolent man to you? In Matthew 10:34, he said he came not to bring peace, but fire and a sword. In Matthew 21:12-14, he violently drove the money changers out of the temple. Now, ain't no way in the world you're going to go on Wall Street and drive the money changers out there unless you got an army with you. There's no way you're going to be able to do that. So I want you to think about that. I'm coming down to an end. I say you're getting restless. Point 8. The marital life of Jesus and his son Barabbas. Have a tape with that name too that I'll bring up for you next time. Now, what makes me think that Jesus was married? First of all, I don't know why they had to say he wasn't. It doesn't make any sense. Unless you got a problem with the course of nature. Early Israelites, according to Barbara Walker in the Women's Myth page, Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and something, I forget the whole title there, but I quote it in African Woman, the Original Guardian Angel, page 587. She says, early Israelites also barred unmarried men from the priesthood. They thought that a priest's spells and vocations would be powerless if he had no wife. Jewish scriptures, that's the Talmud, said the man who has neither wife nor children is disgraced in the world and is hated by them like a leafless and fruitless tree. The Hebrew Torah said that if you were not married by the age of, Talmud said if you're not married by the age of 20, let him rot. Find that in the Jesus Scroll by Donovan Joyce, page 37 and page 77. Another reason why I knew he had to be married, or his father was a hypocrite. Joseph, what did Joseph do with Jesus on the 8th day that all Africans, most around the world do on the 8th day after a male child is born? Circumcised. What does that mean? When you, in Hebrew law and tradition, and in most African tradition, it meant they were dedicating his penis to God to be used to bring seed into the world. That's what it means. How do I know? Because I know the law of the Talmud, which said, which Joseph followed, and the Torah, which said when a father stood before the priest at the altar and offered his firstborn to the nation before God to be circumcised, he had to take these vows. I will teach him the Torah, that's the 5 books of Moses, the law. I will teach him a trade. I will find him a wife. That was the law. And to transgress that law was to be in shame and disgrace in Hebrew land. We're talking about Hebrew. We're not talking about Rome. We're not talking about England. We're not talking about France. We're not talking about Hollywood. We're talking about the little black nation of Israel, the nation of Judea. I don't have time to read it, but I'm going to tell you about it. You go home and read it. You read the chapter of the Gospel of John, and to tell you about a character in there named Mary of Bethany. Now, I haven't gotten to her yet. Mary of Bethany. Jesus had left town, and while he was out of town, Lazarus died. When he came back to town, listen now, the first person to run out and meet him and express her grief was Martha, the sister of Lazarus and the sister of Mary. Now, Mary was just as grieved as Martha, but she didn't run out to meet him. Martha ran out and meet him and jumped on his case, did the sapphire act on him. If you had been here, he wouldn't have died if you hadn't been running your behind all up and down the countryside. Okay. Didn't she? The text says, the scripture says, Jesus says something in Martha's ear. Martha goes to the house and tells Mary secretly, is that what it said? The master desires to see you. Forthwith, Mary jumps up, alights, and runs from the house and goes to meet Jesus. Now, if you don't know Hebrew and tradition and law, you won't know what that means. In Hebrew tradition, a woman could not leave her house to greet her husband. I'm not in agreement with you. I'm just telling you what it was. Could not leave the house to meet her husband until he had beckoned her, once he had come in from a journey. That was the Hebrew law and tradition. Later, we see her sitting at his feet, and Martha complains. I'm doing all the work around here, and she's sitting at your feet. And they come on back with some, well, she's partaking of a bread that she was partaking of a bread that Martha knew not of. How you do when your man been gone a long time? Y'all can act so sweet then, too. Then when you get mad with us, you're ready for us to go. But it's beautiful, though, the black male-female relationship. And when it's up or when it's down, still good. Beautiful. I don't know about y'all, but I can't live without her, and I'm not afraid to admit it. I don't want to. If there's anything better, I don't want nobody. Now, according to the resurrection story, now there are other things to indicate that Donovan George brings out that this woman was his wife. But it seemed like he had more than one wife. And he had a thing for women named Mary. Well, it was look, women developed the system. Don't blame it on the men. It was developed by women. We'll discuss that another time. And when it's done right, it ain't no problem. But I ain't gonna get into that, so back off me, sister. Back off me. I get stronger, man. I don't work right unless that system is working for me. I don't function well. And that's where got to have those different pools of energy to draw from. You kill one woman trying to draw all that energy out of her. But let me not get into that right now. I'm not saying you have to do that. Might not be what you want to do. I'm trying to get all I need to do what I got to do. You got to bring some to get some. You got to be fair, and it's got to be spiritual. Okay, I'm through with that. And my wife is in agreement. We don't have no struggle over there. Amen. I got one of the true queens of Africa. The true queen. And she's so rough sometimes. I say, hey, baby, I'm not one of the subjects. I'm with you. She run the company for Donnie President. Keep her from trying to run me. She's supposed to be running a nation. That's what it is, see? So I couldn't get a nation, so I just gave her the company. Here, you run that. Well, I'm not going to get into that. Okay. According to the resurrection story, we're not going to argue over whether it's true or not. Let's just deal with the story now, all right? Who was the first person to see Jesus when he came up out of the tomb? Who? The first person to see him. And when she saw him, what was the first thing she did? You remember? She tried to embrace him. And then they came up with this thing, touch me not, I've not yet ascended into heaven, and all that.